Dr. Mumba, it's a pleasure to have you with us here.
Thank you so much for having me here. And thanks to also the G20 initiative.
What is the state of the world's wetlands at the moment? And what do we talk about when we talk about wetlands? Is it swamps or is it the sea? Is it rivers? What exactly are they and what is the state of play?
Okay, wetlands are very diverse. Firstly, we have natural wetlands, which are, like mangrove ecosystems. We have coral reefs. We have lake systems that are wetlands. We also have river systems. We have marshes, peatland systems, very diverse, including glaciers. In fact, our glacial wetland system, which is a Ramsar site, is in Switzerland. We also have artificial wetlands, i.e. constructed wetlands like rice paddies.
Wow.
Yes, those are wetland systems where rice comes from.
Are they not artificial or is that still included?
There are flooded agroecological zones that are very diverse, right? Insects go there when they're actually healthy and resilient. What we see in Japan, what we see as the Subak system in Bali in Indonesia, and many other wetland systems. So basically, we do have as a convention the definition of a wetland system. Usually is natural or constructed sites that go up to the depth of 6 meters. But now we're also beginning to see that there are other wetland systems in countries where they've designated, for instance, a heritage site, a UNESCO heritage site, or a man and biosphere reserve. Some of that go all the way into the much deeper waters. Now, what is the state of wetlands? Unfortunately, since the 1970s, we've lost over 70% of wetland ecosystems globally. And this loss is mostly due to agriculture, agroecological food systems, how we grow our food, how we produce food, how we change land systems, agroecological zone, or how we clear all intact spaces. And this is very problematic. In essence, we know for sure from science that we are losing wetlands 3 times faster than forests.
So what's more valuable then? Because obviously people will think, yes, but we need to eat. So it's that balance, that food security. You've got to understand we need the agricultural land. Is it a case of mismanagement or something else? What needs to change so that we don't lose one, at the cost of the other or gain?
It's a bit of both. It's really the how, because sometimes we grow food in a very wasteful way. We clear way too much land to only grow one crop, which is a monoculture. And that monoculture is basically a food system where we pump a lot of fertilizer and pollute the soil and the water, in essence making it totally destroyed. We have seen this manifest in the Aral Sea, which is the North Aral and the Southern Aral in Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan. And this sea has disappeared in our lifetime because there was a lot of agroecological extraction of water for cotton. And the result of that is that they lost an entire inland sea. And now here's the positive story, if I may. The positive story is that the only reason the Aral Sea is beginning to recover is because we have Ramsar wetland sites on the margins of this particular ecosystem that disappeared several years ago. And both Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan is working hard. And I recently visited Uzbekistan, and so did Ibrahim Tiao, the head of UNCCD, saw firsthand how these restoration initiatives are now finally kicking in so that the space recovers.
Okay, so when we talk about restoration, what exactly is Ramsar doing? So, when you say you're restoring land, wetlands, what do you need to do? Because it just seems impossible. How do you restore an area that requires or is sustained by water? I mean, where do you even begin? That's a huge power, water. How do you control that? How do you manipulate it? How do you work with it? How do you bring it back on side so you get those ecosystems coming back? How do you do that, Doctor?
So as a convention, we're a convention with 172 contracting parties. First of all, we don't do the projects. However, those governments that are members, or at least are contracting parties to our convention, we partner them with the United Nations Environment Program, with the United Nations Development Program, with many other international organization partners, Wetlands International, IUCN, the World Conservation Union, WWF, and many many other organizations, including the Global Environment Facility, that generates resources to invest in these countries. I'll give you one example very quickly. The Lake Chad region is a lake system that has lost 96% of its lake surface. This is an area and region of indigenous peoples in Cameroon, Nigeria, in Chad itself, and also in Niger. Now, what we've seen is that UNDP and UNEP working together with the local communities to use indigenous knowledge systems, what they knew from their ancestry, what they have known innately from their ancestry, to use mechanisms and traditional methods that do not over-extract the water, do not over-deviate the water, but we also have to bear in mind that a lot of these spaces are also getting lost because of climate change. So how do we make sure that these spaces are resilient enough so that, because in this place, like for instance on the Nigerian side in Maiduguri, this is where we've seen the conflicts emerge because there's not enough water. The pastoralists come over, they want grazing land, there's not enough grazing land, so there's another conflict with another community, etc. But now this element of negotiation, discussion, governance systems that have existed historically, this is where we're seeing the role of restoration happen.
What is the key issue when we lose a wetland? Is it the actual loss of water? Does it dry up? Just putting it in layman's terms. Is it the loss of diversity? What is that key loss? Why should we not lose our wetlands? Why should we protect them? What are we losing?
Wow. That is a very important question because at the moment we're actually doing an analysis on the very cost of loss of a wetland. Now, wetlands have what are called ecosystem services. They provide a service. Some wetlands are basically just regulating the climate. Like the wetlands in the Alps, they're regulating the climate. Because of the wetlands in the Alps is the reason that the Swiss Alps have the four rivers of Europe, the Rhone, the Rhine, the Po, and the Danube. They're all coming through. So imagine if just Switzerland, where we're hosted and where we're based, lost all those wetlands. That means the Rhine would dry, the Rhone would dry, the Po would dry, and the Danube would dry. Can you imagine that? That means the city of Vienna, Bratislava, and many others have no rivers flowing. All the cities in Germany where the shipping industry is taking, their cargo to the sea through a river system, imagine if that disappeared. Let me give you an example. In 2021, the River Po in Italy dried. You remember the massive drought of 2021? It was crazy. The Loire, the River Po. Now, people do not realize that the River Po in Italy is over 70% of the GDP of Italy. 70%. So imagine your river dries. All your businesses, where your pomodoro gets canned, where your cheese production is happening, where all these businesses are happening, just went dry. The implications on the economy, on the social, on the environmental, the very three pillars of our sustainability, that's when you begin to see the value of the wetland. Because suddenly your water won't run in your house. Where is it going to come from? You cannot generate energy. Your ship will not move. Remember when we saw what were called the hunger stones in Germany, those stones that are in the River Rhine and in the Rhone, that when you see this writing, it says that when you see this, know that you are in trouble.
In trouble, yeah.
Those stones have not shone in hundreds of years, and there they were. And people were shocked. My goodness, these stones exist? Yes, they do exist. They're there. That means that historically something happened as well. So this begins to tell us a story that these systems are fundamentally important, not just for our livelihoods, for our existence, everyday existence, for you to have a shower and cook a meal. No, these are important for running an economy, for running a whole, cooling down a nuclear station, for generating power through hydroelectricity, for regulating the weather so that it's nice and cool and beautiful.
Mitigation or restoration? Which is more important now when it comes to the role of wetlands?
Both.
Okay. I love that. And very quickly as well, success stories and areas of concern or wetlands that you're worried about. The story's there, nobody's looking. The problem is there, and nobody's seeing it yet? What are you watching very closely? But what are you also proud of in terms of a wetland that's been restored?
You know, I'm very proud of the work that's been done in Costa Rica, for instance, in the Gulf of Nicoya. And part of the work there is because of the women communities. The Gulf of Nicoya is a mangrove system, massive mangrove system, and some fisheries were declining there. And the women took it upon themselves to literally police their husband on the kind of netting system they use for fishing.
Policing their husbands?
Literally. Yeah, they're just like, you cannot take that to the sea, you cannot take that net, and put in these local governance systems which eventually were amplified into law, and this was 20 years ago. And now Costa Rica is the first country in our convention to actually have a blue carbon strategy, of which they're working with NOAA, the US NOAA, to really understand the carbon sequestration capability of these mangrove systems. It's phenomenal. The spaces I'm watching very clearly are mostly permafrost regions. You know, these wetland systems that are very in Siberia, in Alaska, you know, peat systems that out of sight, out of mind, but most of the times have been frozen. And then all of a sudden they're thawing. What does that mean for our planetary dynamics? We don't know. And this could be new science, emerging science. There's a lot of work that's emerging. And why do they matter for re-wetting? Because we know that these peat systems need to stay wet, because if they stay dry, they're absolutely dangerous.
You kind of answered my next question, because how on earth do you restore a permafrost? I mean, that's been going for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. How do you re-wet it, but most importantly, refreeze it? You know,
to be honest, I have no answer for
what
that.
What new science? Are they actually, what, I mean, how
well,
are they
we don't
thinking?
know. We really don't know. The bottom line is, right now the world is thinking, what do we need to do differently to have this planet? We have breached the planetary dynamics. So we need to start rethinking about what else we do, because we are certainly addicted to fossil fuels, which are warming the planet. We have degraded land, which is also releasing a lot of carbon and also warming the planet. So we need to rethink how we relate to Mother Nature.
I'm going to squeeze one more question in. What do we know about Saudi Arabia's wetlands?
Oh my God, fascinating. Khorasan Island, which is amazing because the mangrove systems there are intact, beautiful, stunning, but it's also on the Red Sea, where they have just discovered 20 what are called 20 blue holes. These are blue holes in the deep sea where you can see them, the atolls and round system that is like a cylinder into the sea. I mean, phenomenal. But what is fascinating, actually, there's a movie that you need to check out, a documentary on Netflix called Horizon, a film by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that tells you all the landscapes across the kingdom. It's phenomenal. Remember, this part of, West Asia was connected to Mother Africa. So over 40 million years ago, it's moving away. There's a geomorphological shift where you see these wadis, what are called wadis, and the valleys and the green vegetation and all this land is stunning. And there's a fantastic book. I cannot remember the author, but I just bought it recently. It says deserts are not empty.
Dr. Mumba, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.